Let's say I'm saving for a house or another large purchase. What should I do with that money I'm saving? Option 1, I put it all in stocks. Market crashes 30% right when I need it. Option 2, I play it safe. I barely beat inflation. Both options stink. I'm going to show you a strategy that shows averages of about 7 to 8% returns over a 5-year time frame. That in historical modeling has demonstrated a 90% plus chance of beating inflation through 3,000 hypothetical Monte Carlo stress test simulations. I have an advanced degree in finance and love helping people with money, but I am not your personal advisor. I'm just a guy opening up his playbook and sharing his personal strategy in this tough middle ground time frame. This is educational, but it's not personal advice. All investment involves risk. Past returns don't guarantee future returns. Do your own research and check with a pro for personal advice. First, a critical distinction. This is not retirement planning where I might only need to withdraw 4% a year. This is for when I need most or all of this money at a specific time. So think down payment on a house, buying a car or boat, wedding expenses, big vacation, major renovation. Time frame, 3 to 9 years. Everyone knows what to do with short-term money. Put it in a high-yield savings account or other safe investments, and long-term money, diversified stocks and other high-return investments. But that middle ground? That's the trickiest piece, and it's where people often hemorrhage money making the wrong choices. Let me show you the 3 mistakes I consistently see. Mistake number 1, all safe. Treasury notes, high-yield savings only. Sure, I won't lose money. But at 3 to 4% interest with 3% inflation, I'm barely moving the needle. 5 years later, I've left $20,000 on the table. Mistake number 2, all stocks. Stocks return 10% historically. Yeah, and they also crash 20 to 30% every few years. Ask anyone who needed their house down payment in March 2020 or October 2008 how that worked out. Brutal. Mistake number 3, the 60-40 split. This is what many experts recommend. Stocks and bonds. But here's the dirty secret. It's still suboptimal for midterm goals. The returns and the risk protection aren't as good as you might think, and it doesn't account for varying time horizons. Needing the money in 3 years is very different than 9 years. So what's the answer? I call it hedged growth. 2 simple components that work together perfectly for midterm goals. Component 1, the safety floor. I keep 2 years' worth in high-yield savings. As of the making of this video, banks like Newtek are offering 4.35% interest, FDIC insured and liquid. This is my safety floor, my nothing can touch this money. Component 2, the growth engine. The money that is not in the safety bucket goes into defensive equities. Wait, didn't I just say stocks were too risky? Here's the secret. Defensive equity ETFs have historically returned roughly 9.7% after fees versus roughly 10% for regular stocks, with roughly 30% lower volatility. So I capture about 97% of the upside with 30% less volatility. Defensive equity ETFs invest in low volatility, quality companies. It's equity growth with a seatbelt on. It still fluctuates considerably, but considerably less than the general stock market. The formula, I take the number 2 divided by years until money is needed. That is how much goes into the safe bucket. So 3 years out equals 67% safe, 33% defensive equity. 5 years out equals 40% safe, 60% defensive equity. 7 years out equals 29% safe, 71% defensive equity. 9 years out equals 22% safe, 78% defensive equity. The pattern? Further out equals less safety needed and higher returns. And stick around because I'll show you how I modify this based on needs and risk tolerance. Okay, enough theory. Let me show you what happens when we stress test this. I ran 3,000 different market scenarios through Monte Carlo simulation. Here's what the data says. Let's start with a 5-year example, $100,000 invested. Hedged growth strategy, 40% safe, 60% defensive equity. Median ending value from the stress test is $143,128. That's 43% growth over 5 years. Actual results will vary, but this is the average from the stress tests. Average annual return, 7.3%. Chance of nominal loss, about 1%. Chance of not beating inflation, 8.2%. Translation, in 92% of scenarios, I beat inflation, and in the majority of scenarios, I grow wealth significantly. Let's compare to the alternatives on that same $100,000 over 5 years. Let's say I keep it all safe. I could end up with approximately $123,000. That's 23% gain. Safe, but I left $20,000 on the table. Let's say I put it all in stocks. Now I end up with approximately $155,000 as my median. That's 55% gain. Great when it works, but devastating when it doesn't. About a 25% chance I don't beat inflation, and much greater risk of being significantly down when I need the money. Or I could go 60% stocks, 40% bonds. The models show I end with approximately $145,000 on average. That's a 45% gain. Just slightly better average returns to the hedged growth, but the big difference with the stock bond mix is I have about a 16 to 18% chance of not beating inflation. Here's how hedged growth compares. The models show approximately $143,000 as my median return. That's 43% gain. Very similar returns to the 60-40 stocks and bond mix, and way better chance of beating inflation, with only about an 8 to 10% chance it doesn't beat inflation in the models. This is because high-yield savings are more steady than bonds, and defensive equities historically have tended to draw down less than traditional stocks. This strategy is way less risk than all stocks, and it crushes the all-safe approach on returns. These are all based on historical data and models, but this is what I've found to be the sweet spot for me. My goal in this time frame is to maximize returns while minimizing risk. No optimal strategy is guaranteed. There's always a chance you can lose money or not beat inflation. There's always a balance of risk and reward, and it scales. With 3 years to invest, it has a 5.75% average return, 10% inflation risk, which is your risk that it doesn't outperform inflation. With 7 years, it has an 8.0% average return, 6% inflation risk. At 9 years, it has an 8.4% average return, less than 5% inflation risk. The longer the timeline, the higher likelihood of better performance. This approach isn't one size fits all. I consider my goals and adjust based on my situation. Timeline flexibility matters. If I have a rigid timeline, like a wedding or house closing, I bump up the safety bucket to reduce risk. I choose a level I am comfortable with. I need that money on a specific date, so I am safer. If I have a flexible timeline, like a car, boat, or a nice-to-have purchase, I might reduce the safety bucket and take more risk. Or in a high tax bracket, I could use municipal bonds for my safety bucket to increase returns. Why? Because if the market is down, I'm willing to wait it out. Risk tolerance matters. For example, if I was more conservative, I would keep a higher percentage in safety. It still beats all safe strategies in the stress tests, and it's better for someone to choose a strategy they can stick with than go outside their comfort zone and abandon the strategy midstream. If I was more aggressive, I may keep less money in safety or look at municipal bonds for part or all of my safety. Doing this increases risk, but can push my expected returns toward 8.5 to 9%. I have to consider flexibility and how comfortable I am with risk. The core principle stays the same. There is a safety floor plus a growth engine. If this video is helpful, hit that like button and subscribe. We talk about common sense money principles and break down evidence-based investment strategies on this channel. There are 3 reasons this strategy dominates. The first is simplicity. We need something we can implement without a doctorate degree. The second is diversification. The safety bucket is about as safe as it gets. High-yield savings that are FDIC insured, much safer and more stable than bonds. Defensive equities have demonstrated in the past to maximize returns while reducing volatility. They have been shown to capture about 97% of stock upside with about 30% less volatility. That's an absurdly good trade for these middle ground horizons. Finally, psychological durability. We need to choose a strategy we'll actually stick with when markets get choppy, because we know we thought it out. Strategies often fail because people abandon them at the worst time. This is one of the best, simplest strategies I've found for these awkward middle ground investing timeframes. Here's how I implement this. Step 1, I determine when I need the money, how many years. Step 2, apply the formula. 2 divided by number of years until I need the money. That's how much goes into the safety bucket. So if it's 5 years, 2 divided by 5, so 40% in safety bucket. If it's 7 years, then 2 divided by 7, so 29% in safety. Step 3, execute. High yield savings, I use FDIC insured banks. As of the making of this video, examples like Newtek Bank are offering 4.35%. Then I choose my defensive equity ETF in my investment account. Step 4, I set annual rebalancing. Every 1 year plus 1 day is preferred from a tax perspective. Step 5, as I get closer to needing the money and assuming equities are up, I start shifting more from equity to safety. If equities are down, I can wait. That's all it takes. No complicated rebalancing formulas, no constant monitoring. I set it and check it once a year. So there it is, the hedged growth strategy. It has shown up to 8% or more average returns across time frames. Based on historical data and simulated stress tests, it has shown a reduced chance of nominal loss against other mainstream strategies and beat inflation about 90% of the time, give or take based on the exact time frame. It works with simple, accessible ETFs and requires minimal maintenance. This is how I stop choosing between safety and growth, how I stop leaving money on the table while also not gambling with goals that actually matter. Comment below and let me know how you handle this time frame. Check out our other videos to learn more about how you can improve your finances to improve your life.